Another reason why I left religion, the church, Christianity, and fundamentalism is that the church counselors embellish their credentials. Now, as we talked about in the last few videos, it's not all, or maybe the majority, but there is a significant amount of people in authority that do embellish their education and their ethical right to counsel. We discussed last time how approximately 10% of pastors have a legitimate education in psychology. Only 10% of pastors graduated out of a bachelor's program of psychology. So 90% of pastors in every denomination of Christianity don't have the basic degree of a bachelor of psychology. This isn't even a master's in psychology or a doctorate in psychology. This is just the basic level of education for psychology, which means that 90% of the pastors we go to get counseling from in religious churches, specifically Christianity, 90% of them have never passed a psychology. They've never passed a specific amount of credentials to gain a degree. So 90% of pastors have no degree in counseling. Some may have a certification from a theology group or a seminary, but 90% of pastors do not have the simplest of psych degrees. Which is why I said in the past few videos, if you have a theology question, doubt, or interest, go to a pastor. If you need something that doesn't fall under theology, go to a licensed therapist, someone who has a master's or doctorate degree in a psych specialty. Now, not all pastors or people of faith embellish their credentials. This is an umbrella term for people who omit, either intentionally or unintentionally, their lack of specialty. So if 90% of people who hold theology positions of authority, pastors, teachers, music ministers, 90% of them do not have a degree in psychology, which is why they're called counselors, not psychologists. If they don't have the basic understanding of psychology, ethics, legal requirements, it's very easy to step over the line of what you are deemed legally and ethically to do. I'm a medical professional myself, and I'm under the authority and position of a medical board who has the power, ability, and legality to question my behavior. If I break the unwritten law of ethics, I am brought before the Board of Medicine and I explain why I did this. But when 90% of pastors don't have the basics of a psych bachelor degree, and they're not under a medical board, they're not under the legalities of having a license, liability insurance, or a business license, there is little to no consistent accountability. And a lot of secular psychologists may or may not agree with religious counseling. Religious counseling isn't a force of good or bad. It's up to the people who are involved who decide what is acceptable and what is not according to their religion.